Okay, joining me now, Sarah Westall, at Sarah_Westall. And she is an investigative journalist. And she wants to talk about how Minnesota became a high intensity testing ground for fraud and rapid policy implementation from the communists. Sarah, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for getting over to your studio so quick. And I know you expected kind of the old school thing going on where like the radio station calls you up. That went out in the 90s, but thank you for doing
I was sitting there, yeah. So I
it.
apologize for not
And we
having the
don't
right
call
information.
we don't first even before we did video, we didn't call anybody. Like we don't call anyone. You got to call in. But video is better. And so thanks for being with us. What the hell's going on in Minnesota, Sarah?
Well, I think you really need to look back years, right? You need to see how we had a trifecta going on, meaning that they had the governor, the Senate, the House, they had everything. And it was I believe I did a conference presentation and a series of videos and things 3 years ago on this, on how the extreme legislation that was going through Minnesota at the time, and that this is a testing ground. I felt like it was ground zero because it was the most extreme legislation in the country. We had this perfect storm of things happening in Minnesota, from extreme immigration laws. It's a sanctuary city, right? We had money bringing people in. Now, we got to be fair with the Somalians. They had a civil war in 1990, and for decades, they were bringing in people who legitimately needed help. And then it turned into something different. And then we have, and it probably still is a combination. And then we have the sanctuary city for transgender. We have a sanctuary city for what else do we have? It's like immigration and transgender. And then we have the pro-abortion. It's the most extreme laws. These laws are so extreme that most Democrats don't agree with them. Abortion to the ninth month, taking away services for poor women, those kinds of things. So it was a ripe environment for George Floyd, right? They look for the extreme situation to happen and then they jump on it. And that's what you're seeing here.
Tell me about why Walz is now suing to stop the federal government from coming in. Like he's suing the federal government and he's telling his National Guard to repel them. I mean, isn't that basically an act of secession?
Well, we saw that. My daughter called me immediately and was scared, right? People are, what? You're going to use the National Guard against ICE? Immediately afterwards, the local media, a big part of this problem is the local media. But immediately after that, the local media kind of shielded him and said, he's just talking about quelling, if the protesters get too violent, then that's what the National Guard would do. Make sure we're not in a situation like George Floyd. But that's not what he said. He said that he would bring the National Guard out against the ICE, and now he's suing them. I think they're so emboldened because they have a umbrella. They're in an echo chamber of extreme thoughts and behaviors, and they have a media that's been covering for them for years. The average person in Minnesota does not get the news that we talk about. They don't know that the fraud is to the extent that it is. If you just listen to the local media, you would think it was just pockets of fraud and that this was all racism. And so they believe that they have this insane belief that the people here are just Nazis and that this is all racism. And that's what they talk amongst themselves. Or that's what the media kind of puts out. They don't do it as extreme as the Nazi stuff in the more mainstream media, but of course they do it in the social media, right? You see that. So they're completely insulated here. The media would not work in Minnesota if the media wasn't in lockstep to what the politicians are doing here. And so the average person has no idea the extent of what they're agreeing to. And the legislation that has been passed proves that point. People wouldn't agree to some of these extreme legislative measures if they actually got the information from the media.
So when you talk about Minnesota media, you're talking about local television stations and basically the Minneapolis Star Tribune and the St. Paul Press, I believe it is.
Yeah, and then it goes up to the national media, and the national media doesn't cover local politics. So, for a good example is during COVID, when they were sending older people to nursing homes and people were dying, right? Remember when they're sending young people to nursing homes with COVID and these older people were dying, and the Minnesota or and New York and California and Michigan were getting nailed over it. Walls continued that for 2 months after New York stopped their practice, and it didn't make any of the media. He's been covered for years, and the local politics just don't make it to national media. So you have to depend on the local coverage.
So, Sarah, how does he get out of this now with this what,
He
you know,
better
10
not.
billion fraud, 18 billion? Nobody even knows what the number is. It probably 20 billion. How does he get out of this now?
How can you can? I mean, he said over 400 people were blowing the whistle and he ignored it. This is integrated into, it's not just the Somalians, it's been integrated into the way they run this government. You can't straight face steal. They're predicting about half of the 18 billion out of 14 different organizations was stolen. And there's probably more than that because we had a surplus that disappeared too of $6 billion. Where is this money? So the feds have every right to come in and say, if you're stealing half the money, we need to know what's going on. And if it's being funneled, where's it being funneled to? Is it being funneled to terrorist operations? Are you doing human trafficking? Are you doing drug trafficking? And they can't realistically say straight face that they didn't know when there was this many whistleblowers. And yes, there were systematic things that were not in place that allowed this to happen, but there were also political and cultural environments. If you dare call anybody a Somalian or a group that they say is protected, if you say you don't want to do business with them because you don't trust them, they would call you a racist. It was such a polarizing environment. But I think that's by design so that they can test out these policies. I believe it was ground zero. I don't think you do these kind of extreme policies and this kind of stealing unless you have a whole system in place. But maybe I'm wrong.
Sarah, how much of this money went back to the Democrat politicians in your judgment, based on what you've seen and uncovered?
Well, I think that a large percentage, I don't know exactly, but I think it went through, the USAID, the Doge, what they uncovered, that work was probably one of the best work we've seen in the country. And I think that this all gets tied into that. I don't think the feds would be taking it as seriously as they are if it wasn't uncovered through some of those channels. And in my experience, they don't pay attention to state level politics unless it's a national threat of some sort and there's more going on. So I believe that this was uncovered through, money going back to NGOs, money going to different organizations that are much broader than just Minnesota.
Have you engaged any of the protesters there now in the Minneapolis area?
I haven't gone and talked to the actual agitators, but I've talked to a lot of people on the ground who are very angry with ICE being here. And I just sit and listen because they're almost unhinged. And I think it's a sentiment in the Twin Cities in general. People are really angry, and it gets back to the media and the politicians really stirring them up. The behavior and the beliefs now are more heightened than they were during George Floyd. George Floyd there was heightened, the emotions were high, but it's a lot worse now. And I think it's because of the media, the ICE and the coverage of what's going on day in and day out in media and in social media.
Organic, are these organic or are they paid agitators?
I think it's a combination of, I think the ones that are really, really out there, I think those are paid. That's my opinion based on, and I've talked to different people who have investigated these paid agitator networks. And so I think some of them are paid, especially the ones that are very organized. But I believe that there's also a lot of volunteers that are emboldened. The woman that died, I think she was emboldened. You don't get yourself in the middle of an ICE raid. You don't know what's happening. Is it drugs? Is it human trafficking? What is really going on here? You don't get yourself in the middle of it unless you're emboldened to think that you have more power than you do. I think that they're putting these people up to be at risk. So situations like this occur, and then they can take advantage of them because you don't put non-trained people into those situations. So I think it's a combination of paid agitators and then getting a whole bunch of people riled up who come and support their activities.
And they don't care, the people you've talked to in Minnesota. By the way, I'm going to open this up for phone calls. Anybody wants to weigh in, ask Sarah a question, or you have a comment. Either way, 888-480-JOHN, 888-480-5646. Phone lines are open. 888-480-5646, 888-480-JOHN. You can call me or Sarah, or us both, Sarah. So the average Minnesotan, you're in Minneapolis, St. Paul, you're in the St. Paul area. Somewhere on the news, you've heard that the Somalis have stolen like $15 billion of your money, your taxpayer money. Like, they think that's okay. Like, that's okay.
No, the average Minnesotan doesn't agree with fraud. What they're not hearing in the local media and in their media, if they're watching just the one-sided thing, is that if you listen to NPR, I listen to NPR a lot because I want to understand what they're serving people.
Smart.
You're not hearing that there's 18 billion flowing through 14 organizations, of which half are likely stolen. You're not hearing things like that. You're hearing, yeah, it's really unfortunate. There was a feed your starving children, and we've gotten 72 people and we're handling it, and it's isolated incidents. It's not, and then they'll bring on people who are damaged because they're not getting the resources because the federal government shut off all the funds, and now all these people are hurt. And so they do this.
So then they turn around and blame the federal government for not giving them more money that they're stealing.
That's right. And so that's what makes me frustrated and angry, and people should be angry. They're not covering what the fraud is, but then they also then turn around and talk about how all these programs and all these people are suffering and they need money.
How did 180,000 Somalians get there? What started? Like, how did this happen?
Well, I mean, to be fair, it started years ago in 1990. They had a civil war, and there's over 300 Somalians, 400,000 Somalians in the United States, across many states. Minnesota has the most of them. And they all come because that's where their relatives are, right? And because we had programs to bring them in. But initially, it wasn't like that. They merged into society. They were hardworking people. And most of them, right, like any group of people, most of them aren't like that. But there's a small group that are. Now, they have a clan-based structure.
Wait a minute. 87% of Somalians in Minnesota are on welfare. 76% of Somalians who have been there for 10 years are on welfare.
Well, that's the last decade. That's the last decade that I'm talking about. The first wave of people that came in
the 90s.
Yeah, they're not the same people as the people that are here now. I mean, as far as why they came. Now they have a clan. So you're getting to the numbers that I'm talking about as far as the 80,000 that are in the Twin Cities versus the larger numbers, and versus the people that came initially because they were escaping Civil War situations. Now, some of them probably are like that too, but it was different. And our country has changed a lot. And I think you've seen this as well. But regardless, they have a clan-based structure, and kind of like the Scottish clans, which no longer, Scottish clans don't go by that. I'm Scottish. There used to be a part Scottish. There used to be a clan-based system. That means the families are more powerful than the government structure that you're part of. So the Somali clan, this is really, really important, and people don't pay attention to this. The Somali clan structure means that these international family organizations, where they might be in Syria, they may be in Europe, they may be wherever they are, that a lot of them aren't living in Somalia, but they follow the top of their clan, not the politicians and their local city governments. That's how things are structured. So they're taking direction from multinational groups. And so this money being funneled out is very serious. And where is it going? Why is it going there? Is this something that really needs to get and I know that they're looking at it going to terrorist operations, and it's been documented that it has. But there's more serious stuff when it comes to Somalis too, as far as them turning a blind eye to stuff, they being complete hypocrites. Girls, the female genital mutilation in Somalia, it's 98% of girls and women are subjected to that. And then here, they're continuing it. It's very well documented that it's happening, and they're ignoring that. I mean, the hypocrisy is
What is
over the
female?
top.
When you talk about female mutilization,
They cut their genital areas so that they don't aren't aroused and during sexual intercourse, and that it keeps them from being promiscuous. It's illegal.
You know what? This is like counterculture. These people are sick.
It's bad.
We just need to get them. We just need to get them the hell out. Just get them out. All of them. Just deport them all. All right, let's get to a call. Paul, I mean, that's disgusting. I mean,
it's illegal.
That's sick. That's sick stuff, man. That is sick.
They're ignoring it. That's my point.
Of course they do, because they're sick. It's unbelievable that
it's child abuse.
It is beyond that. It is mutilization of the body against your will. Who the hell does this? Unbelievable.
98%.
Paul, it's just they need to just get them out. Of course, they're not, because that's their voting base. It's part of the problem. Paul in Michigan, you're on with Sarah and John. Go ahead.
Hey, John. So this was the second point I was going to bring up. So sorry I called back in again, but This will just be quick. I really think that we need to broaden out the discussion here, too, because when you're referencing, this goes back to that Civil War back in 91, 92, you're correct. But the thing is, we had a hand in that. See, this is our intelligence agencies, the CIA. They were over there meddling, okay, and they helped create that because that was regime change, right? So they toppled whoever was running the place. Now, what they do is they create a disaster. Then they bring in refugees. They start bringing these people in, and then they use their remittances. They give them benefits and cash, and they use those remittances to go back to support whatever faction they want to be running the country, right? So this whole thing a lot of this has been set up by our government. And I think, this is not just like state level fraud. But the Democrats took advantage of it, and they've taken advantage of it in a lot of different ways. But that the CIA knows there's $1 million a day going out of the country. Somebody told the TSA to look the other way. So, I mean, I think these things, who did that? Who's got the power to do that in the government? Who's been doing that? Because this is the mess they've left us with. And I think that needs to be discussed and exposed, because it's pretty shallow discussion just talking about state level fraud.
You're so right. And I tell you what, and Sarah, thank you for being with us, hanging there. Frank Church was right. You go back to Frank Church, and he did that intelligence commission, and he died before he could get it done. Senator from Idaho, Democrat, ran for president since 76, won a couple of primaries. He had the Frank Church Commission, the Church Commission, and he was investigating all this stuff. And he was saying at the time, the CIA was the single biggest problem for the American nation. And he was right. He nailed it, because it's caused all these problems. All they do is causes problems, up to and trying, as Paula said yesterday, trying to get Trump out of there because he doesn't like them either. I mean, it's unbelievable. All right.
Well, Paul, I want to say one thing it's a lot more than $1 million a day. And when it comes to, so I agree with them 100% that what he's saying about the CIA. But when it comes to our local government and our local people, I don't think the average person and politician wasn't involved until maybe the last 15 years or something. I think things changed. There was a change that occurred at some point.
No doubt. Sarah, hang in there. Paul, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. And you're right. I mean, for that money to flow through TSA, whether it's $1 million or $2 million, whatever the number is, TSA was told to ignore it by somebody. We haven't gotten the bottom of any of that. We haven't even got the tip of the iceberg of this whole thing. Where this money went, how deep this fraud is, Who was behind it? Was the CIA doing it? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but like if I tried to go through, let's see, Reagan, let's say BWI, right? Forget Washington. I take $1 million in cash in a bag. I take the Metro to BWI. I take the Mark to BWI. I get off the train. I try to put $1 million in cash through the I'd be in jail in like 17 minutes.
But that's the point.
Pass it through every damn day. Unbelievable. All right, let's get to line 2. Anthony in Florida, you're on with John and Sarah Westall.
Good morning, Fred and Sarah. Hey, John, the clinical term is clitectomy. That's the more clinical, disgusting term for the mutilation that they've dealt with, that I've dealt with when I was stationed over in Africa and in those areas. Truly disgusting. And I never thought that I would have to deal with
the fact that we let them in and then we let them mutilate their women on our soil.
Their children.
You go to jail, you go to prison for this. You get locked up for years for this. I mean, this is, and we just sit there as well. It's their culture. What is their culture to like eat? I mean, you know, what go out and what was it? Ohio, they were killing cats and eating the cats or something. I mean, this is, I mean, where's this country going, man? It's disgusting. It really gets me fired up.
And this is administered by the village elder. Am I right, Sarah?
It's in their own families, yes.
Gross.
Yes. So the patriarch does this disgusting thing. You know, like Sarah, has there been any signs of any mass deportations or any deportations of these people thus far? Meaning, like, the people that are being convicted of these things, are they or their families being considered for deportation?
Well, I think the considering of deportation for sure, that's what the investigations are all for and what they're looking at. But the problem is that we're dealing with is a lot of people are U.S. citizens. There's been enough time, even 10 years, they've fast tracked a lot of this U.S. citizen stuff. A lot of the kids that were born here are U.S. citizens. So we're not dealing with just people who are illegal aliens or illegal immigration. We're dealing with people who came in here illegally in many cases, and in many cases they're U.S. citizens. So it's a bigger issue that we're dealing with.
Yeah. So this guilt is just ingrained in our society. So we've let them in, and they've these people, all the grift and the theft is so widespread. You can't even hide it. It's like a trash compactor. You can only smash the trash down so much. It's so obvious. If a Democrat was looking at this from a Republican doing this, there would be a line of a mass arrests and perp walks. They would be lining them up and chaining them as they would bring them out. Why are there not arrests? Who is signing the checks? Somebody has to sign the checks. Somebody is responsible for transference of the money. I got harassed for just taking 2,000 bucks in Thailand currency on vacation. But yet all this money is leaving the country. Not a word is said. Where are the arrests? Who are signing the checks?
Sarah?
Well, that's the issue, is that this isn't, the politicians know, the banks know, this is a bigger deal. And that's why the feds have to get involved, because this isn't just an immigrant community doing it through, I don't know, remittance and payday loan stuff. It is, in the politicians and higher level organizers are involved. Banks have to be involved. I just had Senator Mark Fincham. I talked to him about the fraud that's going on in Arizona, and a lot of this is all related across the country. He was talking about mortgage fraud, where somebody would have a $680,000 mortgage, and there would be two transactions, a shadow transaction of $680 million that would come in on a mortgage. You don't have those level of transactions without large banks or banks involved. You can't have that. So the level of fraud that's going on involves some powerful people here. This is not something that is just low power immigrants. This is powerful people being involved. And so the last caller that called in that talked about the CIA, he's absolutely right. And that's why I brought up USAID and what Doge was doing. And the reason why the pushback is so strong and so coordinated and so complete is because powerful people are involved. I mean, that's a sad reality.
680 million.
Yeah, that's a mortgage that he used. Senator Mark Fincham used as an example. He ran for a Secretary of State in Arizona with Kerry Lake, and then they lost, and they're still looking at the election fraud issues. But he was talking about the mortgage fraud system that was occurring in Arizona, and we're seeing that across the country. And so I would not be surprised that New York and California, Arizona, we know, Michigan, and Minnesota, you start seeing more of that as well come out as these investigations unfold.
So they came here out of the goodness of our heart, and we wanted to give them a sanctuary in a civil war stormed country. They come here, and then over, let's say, it started in let's say 95, right? When they started to get here. Civil War was in 91 and 92. So 25 plus 5. So over 3 decades, out of the goodness of our heart, we let them in. They didn't assimilate in the community. They have their own clans. And now, out of our generosity, they have created a national network of stealing and theft to take taxpayer money on a humongous scale and ship it out to God knows where. So they stole the money on our backs, our money. They laughed their ass off because they don't work, because 87% of them are on welfare. They don't have a job. They get money, and they see the slobs like us going to work every day like the schmucks we are, punching a clock or getting up at 4 in the morning or doing whatever, and they laugh their ass off as they steal us blind and think about how stupid we are for going to work. That's basically what you got going on in Minnesota.
Well, you do, but you can't steal $8 billion, if that's what we're talking about, $9 billion or more, the whole surplus, without the local politicians knowing about it. There's no way.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy that got that just resigned in Maine, some Somalia, and they elect him because we want to show that we're not racist. So he's got guys in Lewistown, Maine, doesn't even live in the city, right? They never check that out. Never check his residency. Gets elected to council. Has a rap sheet, didn't bring that out, gets elected to council, then they have a massacre there. They start a fund to help the victims who were with their hospital bills that were wounded. 13 people dead in that massacre in Maine. He gets a nonprofit, gets $9 million. Nobody saw where that money went, and then he resigns from council. It's insane. It's like, let's just go to Lewiston, Maine. Let's run for council. Doesn't matter if we live there, because these stupid white liberals will vote for me because, they don't want to be called a racist. So I'll get in the council, and then I'll steal $1 million. Like that. Boom. And then I'll resign and be on my way. Thanks for the mill. I mean, we live in the stupidest country on the globe. I don't even know how what?
It's pretty dumb. It's pretty dumb.
It's unbelievable. Anthony, how do we get out of this mess? Anthony from Florida.
The only way to get out of this, like I said, there's the one way. It is you bring in the 82nd Airborne, you surround the entire state, and you start mass deportating, or you're going to end up with a Black Hawk down there. Or they have the numbers right now to secede. They have the numbers of the clans. They've got enough Somalians, 3 generations. They got enough numbers. You're going to either have to clamp down, send in the military, arrest Ilhan Omar, and deport her, just like any other senator that's going against their country. They've already changed the flag, Somali 3-point star. You're going to have to go in and dig them out with the military. Period. You want to solve all this? You're going to have to go kinetic, and you're going to have to go in and kick them out. Because
Sarah,
if you don't,
as tough as
they're going to come and get you.
I mean, as tough as Anthony's talk is, and you know, I don't see how you solve this. I mean, the government there is never going to do anything. They control. They're now there where they control the elections, and voter fraud is rampant because once somebody can vouch for 8 others, whether they're legal or not. So you can't. So they just elect whoever they want. So they got the power base. You're never going to get this out. You're never going to find. You'll never get the bottom of the fraud. You'll never get them out. And then they'll keep electing people that are going to protect them so they can keep stealing money. I don't know Sarah, how do you end this thing?
Well, first of all, I think that you have to keep exposing the fraud. You have to prosecute Walz. You have to prosecute these high-level politicians, and then you have to make sure that you have to communicate to the average Democrat who doesn't support this. And I mean, I've been thinking about this for years because the average Democrat
doesn't support this. Sarah.
The average Democrat doesn't support the fraud.
All the Democrats this is their power base. They can't win without this.
No,
how they win.
But let's be fair. The average Democrat doesn't want half the money to be stolen, and they want people to be taken care of.
Klobuchar is here's where we don't agree. Amy is going to run for governor. She's going to sweep to the nomination. She's going to win with 62% of the vote.
Okay, I'm saying the people.
She's not going to do a damn thing about the fraud. She's going to defend the Somalians. She's going to defend.
Sure. Okay, so what I'm saying is the average citizen who defines themselves as a Democrat doesn't support this. That's what I'm saying. Now the Democrat politicians
keep voting for the Democrats.
That's because of the all-encompassing media bubble they're in. I'm telling you, they aren't supporting the fraud if they know. They just don't. They think that everybody's lying. They really do. And it's very frustrating to sit here in this environment. If you're not here, it's hard to believe it. It really is. How can you guys be so stupid? I get it.
So screwed, man.
It is. That's why I want, and most of the people, two of my best friends are both in Texas. One of my top, Miles Franklin, A. Sheckman, he moved out to Florida. I mean, people are moving. And so my daughter moved to Texas. We're probably going to end up, people are leaving.
Why are you still there?
Well, because my parents were here, and my mom just died in October. My dad had a stroke. He went to Oregon. So I don't have as much tying me down anymore since October. So we're talking about leaving.
Oregon, that's worse.
It is bad, but he has a stroke. He's not functioning well, and he's living with my sister.
Listen, you guys, this whole thing is such a catastrophe.
It's awful.
And I tell you what,
COVID was just as bad.
That's why I'm telling you what, there's karma. That's why the Twins did a fire sale. They suck. Nobody will buy the team from Pollard. He's awful. Twins are horrible. Vikings finished last in their division. There's karma going on here. Vikings finished last. Who wants to get traded to the Vikings? Then you got to live there. Then you got the Wild. They suck. Your hockey team sucks. That's why the first hockey team got out there and went to Dallas. They were smart. And then the Timberwolves, they suck too. So you all suck. All your teams are horrible. That's karma. Anthony?
Well, karma's karma.
Anthony used to be a Sabres fan. He abandoned them and went to Florida. Whatever, dude.
We used to be better. We had some good years. The Wild had some good years. The Twins had some good years, but not recently. The Wild has recently.
Screw the Twins. I tell you what. Screw the Twins. Screw the Vikings. Thanks for getting us Carlos Correa back for virtually paying his salary. Oh my God. I don't know what you would do. You guys are so screwed.
We are. But the only way, I've been thinking about it for years, the only way is to communicate with the average person, the average Democrat, the fraud, and how they can't take care of their good people. I'm serious. That's the only way.
You and Tom Emmer will be the last two people standing. And I be 3 people. You keep doing what you're doing. How do people follow you, Sarah? You're a brave soul. I'll tell you that. How do people follow you?
Go to sarahwestall.com. You can follow me. I'm on every platform. SarahWestall.com. Sign up, subscribe, share, do those things. I'm back on YouTube after being kicked off for a long time.
You and me
So,
both.
yeah. Well,
Did you get back in under the clemency thing they had?
yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
We have that in common.
We have that in common. Yeah, I got kicked off. I got kicked off everywhere. They took down my website. It's bad. See,
It's
I
so
think
nice.
I think the local politicians, I think they have more power. I think that was a national thing, of course, but I also think that this.
Well,
Why do you think Walz ran for vice president? There is more going on there.
keep stealing money and keep mutilating your children, and everything is fine in Minnesota. That's why I hope the Twins finish last again. That's my hope. Twins, Vikings, Wild, and Timberwolves. I root against all of them every night, no matter who they're playing, just because I can.
Well, the karma is real, I think, and they deserve it if we don't fix this. All right. You get what you sow, you reap what you sow. And if you don't reap what you sow, you don't change things.
Screw the Twins. All right, look, I got to go, Sarah. Thanks for being
Thank
with
you
us.
so much.
Thanks for all you do. Last woman standing in Bangladesh or Bangladesh. What's the capital of Somalia? What's that called?
Bangladesh. No, that's Bangladesh is a country.
I don't know.
I don't know what the.
All I know is, imagine you're mutilating children in America, and like, hey, no problem. Would you like a foot bath? I mean, makes your head explode.